I'm live? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You having a good time at the conference? Yeah? Had a good time at the pub crawl? Nice. So my name is David-Isbitski. I'm a developer evangelist with Amazon. And for the next 50, 60 minutes, I'm going to take you through how to use the Mobile Associates API. Has anybody heard of the Mobile Associates API? Pretty new, right? Pretty exciting. How many people here have written a mobile app on any of the app stores? Okay, awesome. How many people here are doing in-app purchasing or ads? Okay, so Mobile Associates is kind of the next step of that. I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to show you some slides and an overview. And I'm a developer, so I'm going to jump into Eclipse. And we'll look at some of the code for that as well, okay? Everything that I'm going to show you here today, don't feel like you got to scribble it down and hurry. It's all available in the hands-on labs right here. If you don't get access to that, just email me. Isbitski@amazon.com. I'll make sure you get the code. The sample, when we actually do some purchasing, is the SDK sample. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that as well. Sound good? Okay. So this is the agenda. I'm going to give you an overview of what this thing is. What is the Mobile Associates API? I'm going to show you how to set it up with an existing Android app. We're going to look at the link service, which is the first way that you can go ahead and sell goods within your application. And we're going to look at the shopping service. And then we're going to close with how to make money using our mobile ads API and our in-app purchasing API. So how many people here have registered on the Amazon App Store? Okay, and if you haven't, it's free. It's developer.amazon.com. When you go there, you want to hit App Store. You can go /App Store. If you have an existing Android APK, takes a couple of minutes. You can upload it, and you're inside of our store. That's where you're going to find all of these free developer services that I'm going to show you today. So it's all part of the SDK. And when you go ahead and download the SDK, let me just show you. So if we go to oh, I'm off the internet again. Is this the point where I'm like, everyone shut off your wireless phones, right? This is, all right, good. Looks like we're good. Reload. And so this is where you'll get all of our free developer services, including everything I'm showing you today. You're going to get the SDK by coming over here and clicking the SDK and Tools. And when I hit this download button, I'm going to get a zip file. So what I've done is I've just put that on my local drive. And it looks like this. So what we care about is the Android for today. So I'm going to go in this folder. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And you'll see we have in-app purchasing, Mobile Associates, ads. Everything is right here. It's just a jar file that you add to your project. So I'm going to drop down into Mobile Associates. You see I have documentation. Here's the jar file I would add to my project. And then we have a couple of samples. So when you hear me refer to the SDK, this is the SDK. This is where you get all of that goodness from. So let's go back over here. How many people here have heard of Amazon Associates on the web or are using that today for their website? Okay. So it works very similarly in that you can earn up to 6% revenue on purchases that go through your application using this API. You can sell physical and digital items through your app, and you're going to leverage Amazon's checkout experience. So what does this do for you? You're going to be able to, imagine you have a game, and I'll show you some samples, where I'm selling t-shirts from my game. Maybe I have a really cool level, right? Maybe I'm an indie game dev, and I'm kind of promoting my new hero in my game, and I want to sell goods on Amazon. I can go ahead and offer that directly from within my app. You also have the ability to create an entire in-app shop. So if you have a bunch of goods today that you want to sell, and we're going to do this in a little bit, I'm going to use the SDK sample and show you, you can create that front-end store however you want. It's entirely up to you. You call into our APIs and you can pull down categories based on searches, or you can actually pull down specific products that you want to list in your store. Make sense? Okay. So here's an example. Has anybody tried out Air Patriots? Right? Air Patriots is from Amazon Studios. It runs on both iOS and Android. This is fictitious today, right? I have a t-shirt at the bottom. It's my Air Patriots men's fighter plane t-shirt. And I can click on that, and you'll notice I'm actually not leaving my app. The t-shirt is coming up right inside. I can click on that. I can offer it a discount. And then the complete checkout process happens there right inside the app. Now, you may be asking, Dave, what if I'm not using the Amazon App Store and I've got apps on Google Play or some other Android store? You can do that too. You're just going to link to Amazon through a web view when you actually click there versus the full in-app purchase, but you're free to do both of those things. So you're going to get a better user experience for your customers. It's going to give you incremental monetization. So this is not an and or an or. This is something you can do in addition to how you're monetizing already today. So you're going freemium and you're doing in-app purchasing. Maybe you have some ads and you want the ability to start offering physical goods inside your app. You can go ahead and add this on top. It works in both the Amazon App Store and other stores like Google Play. And hopefully as I walk through this, you'll see it's pretty easy to integrate. It's a couple lines and a jar file that we're actually going to add to our project. Does that make sense? OK, awesome. So here's a breakdown of everything. Basically, all you have to remember is that if I want that in-app experience, I need the Amazon App Store. And that runs on both Kindle, and that runs on both Android devices. If I'm going to go outside the Amazon App Store, that's when I'm doing the direct linking. I'm going to show you what both of those look like. So let's go ahead and set up our app. Now, there's a couple steps. So if you haven't set up a developer account today, you're just going to go and register your developer account. If you want to go ahead and actually sell and do in-app purchasing, you've got to fill out your tax identity. All, pretty common things with any kind of app store. The key is you're going to get an application key. I'm going to show you where that is. We're going to update our Android manifest. We're going to reference our external jar file that you saw in that SDK. We're going to export the API. And then we can go ahead and start calling into the link service or the shopping service. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to switch over. So this is me logging into the portal live today. These are a bunch of different apps I have. This happens to be a published app that I have in the store. If I want to add a new app, I just click over here. Everybody see where I'm clicking down here at the bottom? You'll see we've got options for Android, PC, and Mac, and web. I'm going to say Android. We'll give it a title. So we'll say reinvent. And we're going to say save. We'll say entertainment. This key right there, everybody see that? That's your application key. So not only in the SDK that I'm showing you today just for these APIs, it's for any of our APIs that you're going to use. You're usually going to need an application key. That's the one step in the portal. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we have that. Now over here in Eclipse, this is part of the hands-on labs. Anybody remember a game? It was like on the early 90s on the Nokia phones, Snake. And it kind of went around the map, right? OK. So this is an Android game. You can see it's just based on 233. So if I open it up, you'll see I'm just referencing Android 233 right here. I've got an activity. This is my main activity. And then I've got a bunch of stuff in here for the game. Now, we're not too concerned with how the actual game plays. It's a render loop. There's levels, things like that. Where I want to bring your attention is over into the activity here. And you'll see right now I have a simple view, and in my view I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my actual game board and move things around. So let's go ahead and look at what this runs as. So we'll go ahead and we'll fire it off in the emulator. I'm going to say new game. Everybody see my snake moving around? And then if I get the apple, we'll hit the next level. Okay, so that's basically it. we need to go ahead and add a service now to actually go ahead and link to Amazon through that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the link service. So there's a couple of ways that you can link to Amazon. The first is you can go straight to the home page. So this is the game that you just saw. This is the snake game. I took a screenshot on my Kindle device. This is the home page. The next option is you can actually do a category. So does everybody see there I'm doing a snake arcade game? So this is pulling products live off Amazon. And then I can connect directly to a product. And the way that you get to individual products is an identifier called an ASIN. So ASIN. You can actually go up to Amazon.com today. You can click on any product, and you'll see the ASIN up there in the URL. So we've got that information. We've got the SDK that I just showed you how to download, and we've got our snake game. So we're going to go into our Eclipse project, and we're going to update the Android manifest. So obviously, we need permission to the internet. So if you don't already have that in your game, we need access, so we can hit Amazon.com. And then I'm going to call into something called Associates API on the initialize method. And I'm going to give it the application key. Everybody see that? That application key is when we created our new game in the portal and we got that string. That's what I'm going to put right there. So this is the same onCreate method you saw in my game. I've just got one new line now that I'm saying Associate API initialize. And I'm going to add a button. So what I'm going to do as a demo is from the menu, we're going to open a list view, and we'll have 3 options. And each one of those options I'm casting into a button to do the different requests that you just saw in the screenshot. So the first one is just to go to Amazon.com. And that type of request is called Open Homepage Request. So we're just going to instantiate that class. We're going to create a link service, and we're going to get that link service from Associates API. And then we're going to open retail page with that request. And that's it. We'll automatically be transferred over to Amazon.com's homepage with our Associates API and our key. The next is a search page. So you can see I've added a string. I'm calling it term, and I'm saying snake arcade game. All of this code is exactly the same, except the type of request I'm now doing is an open search page request. Everybody see that? So just one line of code to do an actual search. And by the way, you know, as one developer to another, you start geeking out when you're in here and you're like, I wonder what I can find by searching for so-and-so, right? It's like a really cool way to see what kind of products are there. I had a lot of fun, you know, being a child of the 80s, looking at a bunch of different arcade stuff. This is the ASIN. So all I did to find this ASIN is if we come up here and I go to Amazon.com and I type in snake arcade game, look at that guy. So I'll click there, and up here at the top, does everybody see that? So that's your ASIN. And you can do this programmatically. You can start searching by categories and enumerating through ASINs. This is just me actually pulling one down. So that's how easy it is to get something like that. I'm going to give it a string. So I'm saying string ASIN. And then the type of request that we're actually going to do is we're going to open product page request. So the same link service call to get the link service, and link service open retail page, but the request is now for an ASIN. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Come back into our Eclipse project. And I've done a couple of things here. So inside of my Android manifest, you'll notice right here I've given it the internet permission. And then I've added an activity here for when I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up that list view I was telling you about from the menu to hit the different types of link service requests. Now I'm referencing that jar file. So if we come into properties, you're probably used to doing this in all of your other projects. I'm simply going down into libraries. Everybody see the Mobile Associates jar file right there? And all I did was I added an external jar reference. So if I did that, you can see pretty much anywhere inside of the SDK, whichever one you want, you just click on it, and it's always under lib. So I'm adding that jar file right there. And then don't forget, you need to export it. So you can see here I've got that checked. I've seen some people trip up on that. That'll bring everything in that you need to in order to use the Associates API. So what we have down here is we have that new activity. And you can see it's just a list activity. I'm going to put 3 strings. So we're going to do a search for Snake Arcade Game, an exact project for Toy Snakes. And then the rest of this code is exactly like you saw in the PowerPoint. So we're going to initialize Associates API. I'm actually using my key. Everybody see that? And then I'm going in and I'm saying, based on which button I hit, I'm either going to do an open home page request, an open search page request, or an open product page request. And that's it. We just fire off our link service. So let's go ahead and run this. And I think this time we'll do it on an actual device, as I did the emulator before. And switch over. Is that coming up? Great. So you can see here, I have my game running, and I have a new menu item right down here at the bottom, Mobile Associates Link Service. If I hit that, I get our 3 options, our 3 different buttons. So first one is Home Page, and you can see we're immediately taken to Amazon.com. I'm going to switch back. Let's do our Snake Arcade Game. And you can see now it's doing the same search that we did on the web. So all of your customers have the ability to use the mobile version of Amazon.com right here through the categories that you sent. And then let's go ahead and do one for Toy Snakes. So we'll hit that, and this is the ASIN that I picked out, and then it's like the mobile site on any other device. I can hit on it, and I'll actually see that item. Make sense? Okay, great. So that's link service. Now, shopping service allows you to go ahead, switch back here, allows you to go ahead and create an entire front end of products that you actually want to sell through your app. So what I did here is I took the SDK sample for Mobile Associates. You'll get that in the download. And I added our little snake that we're using in the other demo with the link service. So you can see it right down there at the bottom right. It's going to show an image of different products. And in the SDK sample, the sample that we provide for you is this art studio. So I'm an art studio, and I'm selling different art supplies, and you can go through and buy those art supplies. So one of our art supplies is now the toy snakes. And then you can see I set the price up there. And then when I hit that, we're going to get this nice in-app purchasing experience to buy the snakes from within that app. Okay? So let's look at the code that I would need to do something like that. In my Android manifest, I still need the internet permission so I can call out to the APIs. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a response receiver. So we've got an intent in here, and you're basically going to see a request and a response class that we need to implement, and I'll show you how to do that. And then the other areas we need to enable testing. So I'm setting that value to true. And what we've done is we've built an application that you can run on a Kindle device that will actually allow you to simulate a real purchase. Because as a developer, we want to go through and test the entire thing, right, and make sure it's actually working, our code's actually working. So you're going through a full purchase price. You can set the values that gets returned, so you can see if it's failing. You can even act as if you're logged in or if you're logged out, as well as other users. And I'll show you how to use that tool in a second. So the first thing you need to implement is a shopping listener. And this is just straight code. You know, if you've ever implemented an interface inside of Eclipse, you just go up, right-click. I told it to use Shopping Listener. It picked it up, and I just named it Global Shopping Listener. So that's all I've done here. There's no real implementation in any of these methods or properties that you'll see. These are just all of the boilerplate stuff that we need to go ahead and respond to. So we're going to get service statuses. We're going to get a purchase response, We also have the ability to search by ID and get responses from that, get search responses, and then get receipts. So you will always get a receipt back if a customer has actually purchased something. And it's entirely up to you how you want to store that receipt. So we're going to initialize the API. And for shopping service, we want to initialize the API in 2 places. So we are always going to want to do it on resume, and we're going to want to do it on create. So here you'll see on create, same call into the associates API. So we're doing associates API initialize. But inside of my try catch here, you'll see I'm doing get shopping service set listener and then global listener, which is that class I just implemented. Everybody see that? OK. Now, you always need to catch these 2 things. And Eclipse will holler at you when you go ahead and do your try if you're not initialized an illegal argument. So that's just straight up implementation right there when I put it in the try catch. And then similar code in on resume. So I need to go ahead and get the shopping service, make sure I call into that get service status. Now, when we call on service status response, this is going to give us some information about the user, right, and which marketplace, because you're going to want to make sure if the user if the app's actually been distributed through the Amazon App Store. So what this allows you to do is you can distribute your APK in different stores, but based on calls like this, you can detect whether you can do the full experience or the link experience. Okay, makes sense? And so what I'm doing here is I'm getting a request back, I'm enumerating from that, and I'm checking out all the things that are available for me. So can I get a detailed view with preview, the full in-app experience, which you can see purchase experience in-app, and I want to make sure I can get the receipts, and I'm also testing for search. What I'm going to show you is the full in-app experience. So we're going to do purchase experience in-app. And when I'm ready to actually go ahead and purchase something, this is the handler for the on-click event. So you can see inside of my global listener, I've made sure that app detail is supported, and I'm going to create a purchase request. And inside of that call, I'm passing in the ASIN. Everybody see that? So that ASIN is that snake toy. And then I'm going to set my purchase experience to be the full purchase experience in-app, which you're seeing right there. We're going to get the shopping service, and we're going to do a purchase. So that's it from a code standpoint. We'll do the rest. We'll actually bring up the interface. We'll let them purchase it. When they're using the Amazon App Store, they're already logged in with their Amazon credentials, and it'll be a seamless purchasing experience. And then you're going to get a response back with these different types. So I can do successful, failed, not supported, invalid ID, or pending. And you can also log that type of stuff too if you want to see how your transactions are going. Now, this is the app tester program. You can get this off of the Amazon App Store. So just go on Amazon.com and look for Amazon App Tester. That's how you actually load it onto the device. You've got a couple of options here. So you can set your testing mode. This is where I talked about you can do whether you're logged in or logged out. You can switch users. You can change your responses. It's pretty robust. And so this tool is going to allow you to actually test out all of those in-app purchases. So let's look at what that would look like on a device. So code here, again, is going to be a little different. I've taken this one from the SDK sample. So you can see we've got a couple of different activities here. We're going to set up in the main activity our references to the mobile associates, and then inside that global purchasing listener. Everybody see that? That's where we've implemented the shopping listener. So that's where all the magic's going to happen. So let me show you the original call. We're going to go over to the Android manifest first. And remember, we have to add enable testing. Otherwise, every time we fire off, we're not getting, we're trying to do a real purchase, right? You don't want to do that in your testing. This will make sure it's using the local test client. And we have internet permissions up here. Inside of my references, you can see I'm going right into the same exact jar file that we did before, and I've made sure that I've exported it. And then if we go down into main activity, you'll see right here is where I'm creating my global listener. And then on create and on resume is where I'm doing both of those associate API calls with the try catch that I talked about. Okay, so at this point, we've now got this service that I can send requests to do purchases. And now we need to have that listener, so when it hears back, whether it's hearing back from Amazon or it's hearing back from the Amazon app tester, that we can actually do something with that. So if we come over to here and we go into the global purchasing listener, you'll see we've got a bunch of different methods here. If I get a service status response, you can see here I'm getting receipts. These are all the calls that were in the PowerPoint before. If I come down here on a purchase response, if I'm getting status successful, I'm showing different dialogues. On receipt response, and then on search by ID response and on search response. So pretty straightforward to set up. We've got all that stuff running now. How does the test program actually know what I want to sell? So if we go back into the portal, right up here is in-app items. Everybody see that? And that works for both in-app purchasing and mobile associates. If I click on in-app items, I get 3 different kinds. So a consumable, think of it as a power-up, right? A new level, you're unlocking something like that. An entitlement is a one-time thing, so maybe I'm moving from a free version to a pro version, and then of course a subscription is self-explanatory. I'm doing some type of media consumption. So we'll do a consumable, and we'll say something like Snake Game Level 2, and I'll say Snake G02 save. And then we'll give it a description, new level 4 game. Okay, and so you can go ahead and you can set all of this different kinds of stuff up. Availability and pricing. And what's going to happen is once I set all of this up, I have the ability to generate a JSON file. Does everybody know what a JSON file is? Okay. And so you're going to download that JSON file from the portal. And inside Eclipse, you can see the project already includes one. So you're seeing Amazon SDK product JSON. So if I double click this, this is in your test environment where you're actually going to set up what the user sees. So this is where I get all of my different categories, rating, description, pricing, all of that is being served from the tester program itself. The image here, if you need to get the image, when you actually click on a product on Amazon.com, it'll give you that URL, and that's where you can get the image from. And so what you can see here is I've modified the sample to add the toy snakes. Everybody see that? And I've set it for this ASIN right here. So if we move back into the code, and we go into our store activity, you'll see inside of, and remember this SDK sample is an art store, so you're going to see a lot of different terminology here, right, for art and music. All I did was modify that, so when I click on one of those ASINs, it's going to go ahead and it's going to use our snake ASIN. The rest of this is just boilerplate UI code. Now, this product.json file, you need to get to a device. So you can use that like anything else through your DDMS. So I could put this onto the emulator if I wanted to. I could put this onto my actual device down here. And then you put it into SD card. So then your JSON file's actually on your Kindle device. So the way that I would do that is I'd come right up here. Everybody see this one? And I'm going to tell it to use the JSON file that came with the project. Which happens to be here. And now that's copied onto the actual Kindle device. So if we run this and deploy it, and we're going to tell it to use the actual Kindle. Switch over. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to load that app tester program. So this is the app tester program. And you can see my user account settings. So I am in SD testing mode. My status is logged in, and I'm going to use Amazon user 3. My marketplace is US. This is where I could change the response. So maybe I want to make sure all of this is running asynchronous, by the way. It's not going to block your UI thread or do anything like that. But if I want to simulate that so that I have slow responses, I can come in here and I can start adding, what would happen if it takes a long time? What would happen if I change the UI mode? So interactive, it's going to give you the option at runtime and say, what do you want to return? So if you change your mind, you can go ahead and do that. You can see I have the different failed, successful, everything that you would need when you're testing. You can also see here different things that I've already purchased. So you can see in testing, Amazon user 2 has already purchased some of these different things. So let's go ahead and make sure that's running. And we will deploy this. Okay, now did you see how it was saying loading? So I'm actually doing calls up to the Mobile Associates API service, and I'm getting information about what I've already purchased. So since I haven't purchased any of these snakes yet, you can see it's a 0. I'm going to say buy some stuff from our art studio. And you can see the second option at the top is toy snakes. I hit that. It's bringing up the in-app purchasing page. So this is what's cool about the tester is it's actually showing you the experience that your user would get. But when I purchase it, I'm not actually buying anything. So if I hit buy now, you see the Amazon app tester says thank you. I'll hit close. And when I go back, notice I've now incremented that value by 1. And you may be saying, Dave, where's that 1 coming from? So the app tester has actually stored all of that locally. And I know that's hard to see, but if you look at the bottom, do you see Amazon user 3 has just now purchased that? So you have the ability to go back in and make sure all of those purchases have gone across. Make sense? Excellent. So that's the Mobile Associates API. We have our app up in the App Store. And maybe I want to start doing ads. Maybe I want my app to be completely free. I want people to be able to purchase all sorts of stuff. But I also want to add some functionality and get revenue back by doing mobile ads. So the Amazon Mobile Ad Network is an API available for any Android device, 1.6 or higher. It serves ads currently to US customers only. And you're free to distribute your app in any of the other stores as long as you have that app available on Amazon as well. And here's some tips for how you can increase your ad revenue and what I've seen. So what you see over on the right is our snake game with an ad across the top. First one, pretty obvious, place ads visibly. I've seen that not necessarily happen. So remember, if you want people to click your ads, make sure they're visible. What we do is if you don't set your ad size, we're going to figure that out for you. So our auto ad size is on by default. So if you've got code where you're making it a specific size, you may want to think about just setting it to the default and leave that work up to us. You can also use other ad networks. We don't prevent you from doing that. So if you've ever done ads on mobile apps, you know that fill rate is always a concern. So you're free to mediate between those ad networks. And if you don't get an ad served up from us, you can go ahead and go to another ad network and serve that up. And you have the ability to refresh ads however you want. But typically what we've seen the best is between 30 to 45 seconds when you're serving up an ad. And you're going to set that in timeout. I'll show you exactly where that is in code. It's pretty straightforward to set up. So setting up the ad, exactly, I won't list all this off verbally. It's exactly like the other service was. We just have to set up an account. We're going to take that same SDK, and we're going to reference the external jar file. What we need to do in code is we just need to implement the layout and the activity. So basically the UI for when you're actually seeing that ad. And you can also target, and I'm going to show you in code how you can target different things. Like you can target both gender, you can target age as well. So what that would look like is I'm creating an ad layout, and I'm just calling it ad view. And I have an initialize Amazon mobile ads. There's the app key. Everybody remember the app key from the developer portal? And for testing purposes, you can enable logging and testing. You want to set both of these to true. Don't forget to turn them off when you publish your APK. But this is going to give you a whole bunch of logging at runtime, so you can actually see what's going on. You can see the URL of the ad that's being generated and all of the other kind of Delta information. I'm going to create a new ad layout. And then this is where you set the timeout for the ad. And it's in milliseconds. So 20,000 is 20 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and cast my ad into a layout. And then I'm going to add a new listener. And when that new listener hits, we're going to go ahead and load the ad. Make sense? OK, so this is what it would look like. Here's the snake game. You can see the ad up on the top. When my customer clicks on that ad, I'm taking into a web view to the mobile Amazon site. And you can see right now this looks like a watch. So let's go ahead and run this. So if we go down to properties, you'll see the library this time is now the ads jar. And if you recall, I said add external jar. Everything is inside that SDK that you download. So I just went into the Android ads lib directory, and there's the Amazon ads. Then I also edit my Android manifest. So I'm making sure I've got internet access on as well as location. And then we're adding the ads activity, so you can see that right down here. And then the code is very straightforward. So you remember we had our snake game activity. The only thing I've done is exactly what you saw on the slide where I created initialize Amazon mobile ads here. And that code looks like this. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and do an ad layout. We're going to create and set our app key that we got from the portal. And then we're going to create a listener for when I click on that ad. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to run this one in the emulator. Click across. I'm going to launch it on the device instead. This is always the fun part when you're testing to see what kind of ads you're going to get. It looks like the wireless is a little slow. Let's try it again. Third time's the charm? It looks like we've got wireless issues right now, but what it's actually doing is it's serving up an ad at the top, and then if I were to click on that ad, you would actually see we would be redirected. And in fact, if I switch over here to my machine and I show you Logcat, this is what I meant by adding all of the logging. So you can see here, everybody see the URL for the ad? So I can actually record that, where that's being hosted from each time I'm served up an ad if you want to get some information about the ad network. Does that make sense? Okay. Now the code, and I won't do it just because I know the wireless is going to be a little flaky again, but the code to actually add a target is just that. Right? So I go ahead and I say add target, add targeting options. I'm just putting in an age and a gender. And then I'm going to be served up ads that actually target that specific audience. And so what I'll do at the end, I know we've got probably like 10 more minutes. At the end, what I'll do is I'll switch to wireless on my phone. If anybody wants to see this running, I'm more than happy to show you too. Okay, so that's ads. We've seen how to get the SDK. We've seen how to set up mobile associates. Now let's take a look at in-app purchasing. So anybody that's playing games today has seen an increase in in-app purchasing, right? There's that freemium model where the game is, there's no cost up front, but inside you're buying a lot of different consumables. And as you saw when I was setting up IAP in the portal, we had three options. We had options of consumables, entitlements, and subscriptions. And I wanted to give you some tips that I've seen. And there's a really good session if you check online for Casual Connect Amazon. You'll see some more in-depth details around in-app purchasing and what we've seen in the Amazon App Store. But the first is, if I want to increase revenue through IAP, as a developer, my first thought was, I need to make my game more engaging. I need people to play it longer. And if they play it longer, they'll buy more. And what we've found is if you actually increase the number of sessions, you'll make more revenue. So if you have more sessions, and let's say they're 5 minutes, over the long haul, that'll bring in more revenue than if you have a core audience of longer sessions. Does that make sense? So that's the first thing to think of. The second is the people who play longer are your core audience. And you can start to design really high-value items. And I think we've seen a lot of the different games that are out there today, right? I'm guilty of doing like a $3.99 purchase when I can't beat a level. I won't name any of these games. But they're really high-value items, right? It gives me back time so that I can advance. And these are things, just some tips to think about as you're bringing IAP into your game. Now, when you test it, we're going to do everything in an asynchronous manner, both when you're testing and online. So everything's going to be done through that Amazon App Store client. And it's very much like you saw with the Mobile Associates shopping service, where we've got an observer and we've got a listener, and we're bringing back and forth between our app sending requests and the App Store client sending back information. So setting it up is exactly the same way. We're going to add the jar file. We're going to reference it. You're going to reference and set up all of the in-app purchasing items that you saw in the store, in that entry when I was setting it up for my app. And then we're going to implement the response receiver and purchase observers. Now, I won't have time to walk through all of that code. And in fact, there's another great session from reInvent last year that walks through a lot of this. But the basic steps are response receiver, purchasing observer, initiate the in-app purchase, handle the purchase, and then verify your receipts. Make sense? Okay. So we're going to use something called the SDK tester. Now, the SDK tester is not available in the store. So if you want to run it on an actual device, what you need to do is the way that you just saw me load the JSON file through Eclipse. You can do that, or you can use the Android file transfer tool. You just bring over this APK. You can also use the emulator. So this is built into the emulator. And when I go ahead and do a purchase, so you'll see this is my Snake game here. If I click Purchase, I'm going to get a response for level, which you can see over on the right. So let me show you what that looks like in code. So library, in-app purchasing jar file. We've exported it. That external jar file, again, is just part of the Android SDK. We went under Android, in-app purchasing, lib. The tester tool is under tools. Everybody see Amazon SDK tester? So that's the testing tool I was just talking about. Inside of my Android manifest, you can see here I'm creating a response receiver. Let's move up to source. And what I have inside of my snake game is I've added a purchasing observer listener and a purchasing observer. So this is what you just saw in that slide where I'm going to make requests and I'm going to listen for requests back. To make things simpler, I'm just going to enumerate through the SKUs right here. So level 2, I'm just calling com Amazon sample IAP entitlement. And this is what you would see in that JSON file. So if we open up the JSON file, everybody see that? So same exact thing that you saw with mobile associates, we're just doing an in-app purchase inside of our game. And if we go into the observer, you'll see here I've extended base purchasing observer. I'm setting my listeners, and very similar to the mobile associates, I'm just checking to see what I can actually do. So you'll see on here, SDK available, am I in my testing mode, get the user ID response, enumerate through all of those different variables, and then I'm saving the current settings. If we go over to the actual listener, this is where we'll get back a request from the actual purchase. So everybody can see here, if on a successful purchase, what we're going to initiate. Right? So very, very similar to what we've done before. Let's go ahead and try and run this from the emulator this time. So actually, we're going to fire off a new version. Now, if anybody is interested and you've seen the emulator and you're like, that's running pretty fast on Dave's machine, it doesn't run fast. I'm not doing any magic. We actually have a blog post on this. This is GPU accelerated emulator, and I'm just using the Kindle image for this. Okay, so there's a little driver that you'll download from Intel. It takes 3 steps, and then you've got a nice, fast emulator like this. So I'm going to load up the SDK tester. You can see I've got no active transactions in here. We're going to move over the file. Now, remember I said you could do it to both the emulator and your actual Kindle device. So we need to copy over into SD card. R. Everybody see the JSON file? So that's what you just saw me open. That's the level. That's now in my emulator. It's all set to go. You can see change user, so I'm just default test user. And now we're going to run this. Come down here, purchase level 2. Everybody see the nice in-app purchase comes up. I say purchase level 2. Thank you for purchasing level 2. You're welcome. It's so friendly. And we'll go back into the test client and active transactions. Now, I know that text is uber small, but does everybody see that that's the level 2 entitlement? So kind of a quick lap around how easy this stuff is for you to test and add to your existing Android APKs. So in summary, we saw 3 APIs. Amazon offers a lot of free developer services. You can check them all out on developeramazon.com. We saw mobile associates, in-app purchasing, and ads. Mobile associates is the next step to possible monetization in your app. You can monetize through in-app purchasing, so freemium can be a good model, and you can add ads, and you can add mobile associates on top of that. It's really about building relationships with your customers. Right? Over time, the more products that you release, the bigger your customer base, the more likely they are to start buying in-app things from you. You can also use a multiple network for your ad fill rate. And remember, once you have that core audience, to start designing some really high-value items for them. You can learn more at developer.amazon.com App Store. We have a blog that you can follow, so developer.amazon.com blog. If you're on Twitter, we are Amazon App Dev. The Dave Dev is my personal Twitter. You're free to follow that as well. And I will be up here if anybody has any questions. Okay, thank you, everybody.